What is going on? Welcome to another Beyond Plug and Play video. This is our Pass or Play series. The game we're going to be reviewing today is Code Vein 2. Is it worth the $70 or not? Let's get into it. So one of the first things I want to talk about is just the graphic settings in the game, right? So, you know, you're met with your basic settings, which is your screen mode, whether you want to go windowed or borderless. I still think there needs to be an option for full screen, but there isn't one here. But borderless is basically full screen these days. I am playing the game at 4K, 3840 by 2160. I'm also on a 4090, as well as a 5800X 3D with 32 gigabytes of RAM. You can cap your frame rate at whatever. Have it no limit, 240 or 144. I do 144 because my monitor is at 120. Anyway, logistics out of the way. Let's go to advanced setting, and I have the draw distance at the farthest. I'm using the DLSS, and just for the technical people, the DLSS version that's being used is 310.2.1, and then the game also has FSR. So this is FSR 3. If you want to know the specific version, it is the FSR 3.1.3. And like I said, I'm using DLSS. I have my VSync off, and we'll dive a little bit more into performance, but we're just gonna kind of skip ahead to quality settings. So you can bring it to the highest, you can bring anti-aliasing to the highest, medium, whatever you want to get into, but this is pretty much all you get, just low, medium, high, highest, right? So we'll talk about this more later in the video. Before we get into the more technical part of the review of Code Vein 2, I just wanted to say that this game doesn't have online co-op. So in Code Vein 1, you had online co-op. You could play with a buddy, you could play the whole game with a buddy or whatever, and a partner, and that was fun. And now with Code Vein 2, we're paying $70, so we're paying more, and we're getting less. So I think it's unfortunate. I think it's definitely a downer, and it's something to consider, especially if you're coming from the first game. Okay, so let's talk about the story and the world of Code Vein 2. So you're in a modern apocalyptic world in Code Vein 2, and the reason I say modern is just because you go forward in the future and you go back into the past. So you're kind of like a time traveler, right? And so in both of these times, the world is incomplete. The world is still destroyed in the past, and the world is still destroyed in the present. So it's just apocalyptic, right? But the story, the setting is very cool. You have the option to change things or not to change things, and you'll see it throughout the memories. And that's pretty much the gist of the story. I don't think it's super duper stellar. I don't think it's gonna, like, you know, change anyone's lives or anything meaningful like that, but it's fun. And if you like big tits, it's there. All right, and right off the bat, starting the game, one of the first things I noticed, and I hate it, I hate that they do this, is 30 frames per second cutscenes. So if you're playing the game and let's say you're well over 60 or at 60 or whatever, as soon as you enter a cutscene, boom, you're going to be back at 30. And I just think the instant switch from, especially when you're in gameplay and then you beat a boss or whoever, whatever happens, you go from that gameplay back to 30. It just feels jarring, doesn't feel good. It doesn't like sit well with my eyes, at least. I just don't like the feeling. And it throws me off. So I hope in the future they decide to make the cutscenes either 60 frames, make them no limit on the frames. You know, they're cutscenes, right? So in my eyes, I don't know why they needed to lock cutscenes at 30 FPS. Some people might not care. I'm a frame whore. I want as many frames as I can get at any time. So, and I just think it makes the game look better. And I guess while we're talking about performance already, I might as well just touch up on my performance with the game. So personally, and I said this at the beginning of the video, but I'm on a 5800X 3D. I'm on a MSI 4090, 32 gigabytes of RAM, DDR4 obviously, and I'm not getting really great performance. I don't know how this game is running on console, but in my eyes, I think the game does look good at some parts, very beautiful game, but it doesn't warrant not really hitting 60. I'm like playing, a majority of the time that I'm playing, I'm usually around like the 50, 42 mark, especially like in combat, and I just don't think that's good for this type of game. And especially nowadays with what's going on with the PC landscape, like you gotta be able to optimize this game. Not everybody's gonna be able to get RAM like they used to. You know, 32 gigabytes of RAM is going to cost you 2 arms and 18 legs. Like it's expensive. So they really have to optimize for the low end. And I'm, in my eyes, I'm in the high end because I have a 4090. And yeah, my processor could be better, but this at the time was a top of the line processor, the 5800X 3D, right? And I know there's people out there where they're probably on a 4070 or a 4060 or a 3060. That's a majority of the PC space. You can look at it on Steam, right? That doesn't include all the numbers, but you can kind of get an idea that not everybody has a top of the line GPU. So in my eyes, you really have to nail down the performance for the mid end, the low end. And the fact that I'm barely getting 60 on a 4090 is very worrisome. Moving on to gameplay in Code Vein 2, I found myself having a ton of fun, but also at the same time, there were some parts and portions of the game where I found it clunky and sluggish. But let's talk about the good. At least when it comes to your partners, the AI with the partners are incredibly useful. There are some times where you have a partner in your game and they're just basically useless, right? But in Code Vein, I feel like they're useful. They use buffs, they use their powers, they're very helpful. They kill the enemies, the mobs sometimes for you, and they do a good job against bosses. Not only that, the game I feel like is very beginner friendly. So let's say you're just not, it is a Dark Souls style game, but you're not like the best, right? You get opportunities to come back, basically, even if you make a ton of mistakes. So a lot of the times, like you'll go down, your partner will revive you, but your partner will be out of commission for a little bit. But if that bar refills itself, your partner can come back and fight alongside you until you die again. You basically get unlimited revives until, you die without your partner being there. And so I feel like the game it gives a lot of beginner friendly options, right? And you don't have to do that. You can go without a partner if you're just that dude. And moving past the partner NPCs in Code Vein 2, you can opt out of it. You don't have to use those guys if you don't want it. If you want the game to be harder, you can absolutely do that. But at the same time, the game still sets you up to be successful. There's so many powers in the game where they honestly feel like super strong. I was using one that buffed my gunshots against mobs and enemies, and it just it did so much more damage than just regularly shooting the gun. Like I was able to take out a boss, like just completely like drained his health, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like the game just sets you up with the Icar power to be successful. And so there's other, like you don't even need your partner really, because if you're really that dude, you can really get past the game like really easily because of how the game sets you up with powers and weapons and upgrading or whatever. So I'm not saying it's the easiest game in the world, but you can become a powerhouse really early. All right, and I wanted to touch up on some of the boss gameplay as well. I found that some of the bosses were cheap, but it could just be a situation of me being bad. But I also found that some bosses were predictable, especially like there's some bosses you fight and then you'll fight them again, like they'll just become a regular mob boss. If you ever played Doom, something similar like that, like you kill the big boss version of it and then they just start placing them everywhere in the world. But one of the major bosses I found like super cheap, but once you get down the moveset, you really do learn something. And then even then too, like sometimes you don't even have to learn the moveset. You could really just brute force it through some of the weapons, right? Because some of the weapons are that good. Like one of the pre-order DLC weapons I was using was like really great. I was just using like this crazy uppercut, and I ended up beating the boss. But like I said, there's a lot of cheap shit that you can do on the boss if you use those Icars, those powers that you get. It really gets crazy. And I'm not even like in game yet, so you can only imagine like how crazy it can get. But I just wanted to touch up on the bosses a little bit. I had fun fighting the boss. It gave me a lot of challenge. I was planning on going to sleep at like 1 a.m. and the boss took me to like 1:30 or something to actually beat. So, but I was, like I said, I caught myself having a little bit of fun with it. Just a challenge, it gives you that challenge. Let's talk bugs. And I'm not talking about roaches and ants. I'm talking about bugs. So I found a lot of bugs with the game, but I'm going to highlight just one that I thought was really crucial, which was a audio bug. So I had, gone into this new area and it was this big boss, right? And he basically had no audio on him. So like I could hear everything else. I could hear my slashes, I could hear my partner, I could hear just like the ambient music around, but I couldn't hear the boss himself. And I was like, what is going on? And this only happened once, but it was just enough to be like, all right, like what's going on? And it really threw me off because a lot of the times with these types of games, like you'll pick up on audio cues. So for this to happen is unfortunate. I'm not saying the game needs to be perfect, but for a $70 game, you got to iron these bugs out. And this is a small thing, and it was just the dialogue options. So when you're talking to NPCs in the game, and this is very inconsistent, but some NPCs will go through their dialogue quick and you can kind of skip through it. But like, let's say you're just kind of leaving the NPC to talk, right? Some of those guys will take like 10, 20 seconds to get to the next line. And I found that annoying sometimes. Like, why is this guy not skipping through his lines quickly? Like, I shouldn't have to manually touch it in order to skip to the next line. So, I was talking to one of the red mech guys or engineers or whatever, and he was just taking forever to progress his audio. Like, I was just waiting, and then 20 seconds went by, and then boom, he would progress his audio. I found it a little annoying. It's not a deal breaker, but it was just something I was like, let me address that.
Trying to fix up a certain bike. I was in the middle of looking into if the
overall, I think Code Vein 2 is a good game, but do I think it's a good game at $70? No. And it's just because when you compare it with Code Vein 1, Code Vein 1 gave you a total package and you got the online co-op, right? Now it's only $60. Now you're trying to sell me Code Vein 2 as this whole total package thing, but no online co-op, right? And then you're selling me a worse performance product. And yes, I get the open world, but like, what does the open world do for me? It just ruins my performance. And not everybody can afford a high-end build, right? And the build that I'm on, I would consider it high-end, and I'm still struggling. So just when you compare it to Code Vein 1 to Code Vein 2 in that sense, I don't think it's worth $70. I do think there is a good game there, and there is a beautiful game there, especially when we talk about the story and the world. It's doing something very interesting, and I haven't beat it all the way through yet, but if like we go back in time and meet those previous characters that were in the first game, that would be so hype for me. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that would be hype, right? And when we talk about the world is very beautiful. There's moments where like I'm walking outside, I see the sun beaming on the grass. I'm like, damn, this looks great. It looks good. And there's times too where I just caught myself having a ton of fun, or I want to get to the next point. But it's just a hard sell at $70, especially when there's so many other good games that are about to be on the horizon. I just cannot justify it for $70. Maybe I'm being a hater, but I just think save your money. Wait, and just wait for a sale. When it comes to pass or play for Code Vein 2, I'm gonna have to go with pass. I just don't think for $70 it's a play. So if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you thought the video was shit, give it a thumbs down. We're still getting into the groove of this pass or play review series. Check out the other pass or play videos and just leave a comment saying what you like, what you don't like, what do you think I can improve on. I'm always down for feedback, but check out the other videos, leave a comment, leave a like, let your boy know what he needs to do. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and go watch the other ones. I'll see you next time. Take care.